Introduction to Max for Live. So open up your Ableton. Max for Live should be included in your installation, obviously. As you've guessed, it's Max inside Ableton. You can find Max for Live here on the side. But first, let's check a few settings in your preferences. So settings, live settings. What you want to check is in the file folder section, the Max application. There's actually two Max applications. There's the Max application you have in a computer, standalone Max, and then there's a bundled version. So by default, it will say that you're using the bundled version of Max. The bundled version of Max is inside Ableton, inside the Ableton application. It's somewhere here. I don't know where it is. You can look for it. We don't want that. We want this standalone version of Max. So we're going to browse for it. It's in your applications, Max, exactly. And we want this because it's more recent. The version is more recent, and also because it will take into account all your search paths. Okay, so you might remember, I hope you do remember, in Max you have search paths. So when you look for a file in Max, if it's not in your search path, Max will not find it. The search paths are here in the file preferences of Max. You have these user paths. So here you can add, if for example all your sound files or all your image files are in a specific folder, you can add that folder here to your search path, okay? Or you can remove it. This will allow your Max application and Max inside Ableton to find those files, all right? Okay, so that's more or less it. Of course, you need audio settings, input, output, could be good. This should work, yeah. Yeah, whatever. Just use the settings that work. All right, now Max for Live. You have three types of Max for Live devices. You have Max MIDI effects, Max audio effects, and Max instruments. A Max MIDI effect will take MIDI in and do MIDI out. A Max audio effect takes audio in, audio out, and a Max instrument takes MIDI in and puts audio out. So this is basically if you want to build a synthesizer. This is if you want to build an audio effect, and this for a MIDI effect, as the name says. If you open these, you might already have a bunch of them in there. If you get the packs here, I used to have some. Let's start with a Max audio effect. So to create a new device, you just double click it. Now it's in a MIDI track. We want to drag this over to an audio track. Let's load a sound file. Any old sound file will do. Okay. And if you play this, it just goes through our Max for Live device. Plug in, plug out, nothing happens. Now, to edit your device, you click on this little button here, and this will basically open Max. Here, we're in Max now. Okay. And this is the device we have over here. Now, let's edit this. Remove everything except plug in, plug out. And let's add, I don't know, frequency shift. Let's add 2 because we're in stereo. And how does this thing work anyway? You just give it a number, the frequency, I guess. Let's use the same for both. Let's clean it up. Save. Frec shift, and let's give it a name. And frec shift is good too. And now, this is important too. You want to save this somewhere where you can find it. I have my own little folder with all my Max for Live devices. I would recommend you do the same. Just keep it in your wherever documents folder or somewhere that's in your Max search path. So yeah, actually I'm going to make a new one just for here. Let's call it M4 Max for Live burn in my documents. Here we go, and we save it in there. Save. Okay. And let's see if it works. Actually, white spectrum. Okay. I hope you hear this. Okay, this is our device. Okay. Now, there's a little thing that bugs me here. First of all, let's say we want to automate something. Like here in Ableton, we can automate, I don't know, the volume, like so, right? Volume automation. Now I want to automate my frequency shift. If I go in here, I see the device, but the only thing I can automate is turning it on and off. Now to make this parameter here automizable, we have to use a different kind of object. So let's go back into the device, and here you have a whole list of Max for Live user interface objects, and these objects you will be able to automate. So I like live dial. Here we go. So we're going to replace this with a live dial, and we're going to give it a name because when we automate it, we want to see its little name in the menu. So we're going to call it frequency. And now we're going to give it a range. So the type, oops, sorry, not the type, where is it? Unit style here is Hertz. This is important too because we're going to give it a range. So it's, let's say it's between minus, I don't know, minus 5,000 Hertz and plus 5,000 Hertz. And now if you look here, this is actually not linear, it's logarithmic. Here, let me show you. If you make a live dial for time, for example, so this is in milliseconds from 0 to, let's say, 3 seconds time. So here, the first few millimeters, we have very fine control, or pretty fine control of the time in milliseconds. But as we go up, it will scale to seconds. Anyway, so choose your units and range and give it a name. That should be enough. And one more thing, maybe for a live device you want to distribute, you don't want to see all these interface. Well, you only want to see the interface. So let's go into presentation mode. We're going to add this to presentation here. Okay, now it's red, and we're going to go to presentation mode. Here we go. We can add a comment. Kind of unnecessary. It already says frequency here. And just for fun, we're going to add another device, live gain. This is very useful. Oops. So we can see the levels. We're going to add this to presentation 2. Go back into presentation and move it somewhere over here. We really don't need this. And let's call it output gain. And this is good. Don't need to change this. dB, very good. Oops. And one last thing you need to do is in the inspector, you have to go to show patcher inspectors. And you want the patch to open in presentation mode. So you can look for presentation mode, and you have to say open in presentation. Otherwise, it will just show up like this here. Open in presentation, save. Here we go. Already looks fine. We close it, and that should work. I can remove my automation here. Don't need that. And let's see. Okay, this works, and now we can automate it. Let's take the sound file because we want to see what we're doing here. Frequency shift, frequency. No grid, drawing mode. Okay, we can also automate the gain. And now you can obviously do this very precisely with the waveform, right? Which is one of the great advantages of having it inside Max. Okay, that's it for the audio device. Let's go and have a quick look at the other types of devices. Pretty straightforward. Max for Live. Let's check out the MIDI effect. Pretty much the same. So we're on a MIDI channel, of course. Now instead of audio, we have MIDI coming in and out. And we should be able to see this in real time. So here, if you print what's coming in through MIDI in, and whoops, we play some MIDI notes. Okay, this is me playing on the computer keyboard. And we go back to Max. Oops, no, that's not working. I actually need to make a small MIDI clip. Here we go. Loop it, play it. Okay, that's it. Now here, this prints just raw MIDI data. Now to interpret raw MIDI data, you want to use MIDI parse. If I put this here, we have a bunch of outlets. So this is note on and note off, poly key, pressure control, change, all of that stuff. We just want the notes. And let's see, is there a device to display the notes here? No, there's a, what is it called? Key slider, no, keyboard, K slider. There we go. Yep, here we go. That should work. And you can also use note in instead of MIDI in. Then you don't need the MIDI parse. So here we have the pitch, the velocity, and here we have the MIDI channel. And then instead of MIDI out, you can use note out, and we use this and the velocity, and channel will just stay the same. Let's line everything up. Here we go. And let's do something to this MIDI data. Let's just transpose it. +0. By default, we don't want to transpose it at all. And let's have it above the keyboard so we see the new value. Here we go. And let's add a live dial. This is going to be our transposition. We're going to call it that. This is going to be an int because it's MIDI. It doesn't need to be floats. And we can call it semitones. And actually it's going to be from minus 127 to plus 127. And that's it, automated and stored. Just want to connect this here. And again, add these guys to presentation. Go into presentation, present it somehow. Okay. And don't forget to open in presentation. Now we call it, so we go into our folder we created and we call it MIDI trans. Okay, and actually we want to hear this, so let's add a little instrument. I like it. Cool, that works. And now we can do this here again. Go into automation. You can also go into automation somewhere here in the menu, here, automation mode. MIDI transpose, that's exactly what we wanted. I don't know if you hear this, but it's kind of groovy. Okay, and the last device is the Max instrument. So this we want to put on a MIDI track 2 because it takes MIDI in and gives audio out. So you see MIDI in, audio out or plug out. So this transformed this MIDI track into a audio track. So we should be able to take this MIDI track, yep, have it on here. So it's going to get the same input, a little bit shifted. And let's see what we can do with this. So let's replace the MIDI in, no, actually just leave it here. Use a MIDI parse. And what am I going to do with this now? Let's convert the MIDI to frequency and control oscillator with it. So here we have our note data. Whoops. Let's get out of automation. Just loop this up. Solo. Okay, this is our note ons, note offs. This is the note number, note 64, and this is velocity. Now we want to use, for now, we make it super simple. We only take the note number. So that's one way to do that is using the strip note object. So here we have only note ons and note numbers from note ons. Velocity would be here. Now with this number here, we want to convert this number to a frequency. So there's a MIDI to frequency object. And if we throw this into here, this gives us the frequency of these notes in hertz. Now with hertz, we can control the cycle object. Here we go. And clearly we want to control the volume of this, so we need a live gain object. Okay, we got sound. This is going to be crazy loud. I don't want to ruin anybody's ears, so we, by default, we're just going to make this a lot softer. Yeah. And okay. Okay, that's this with sinusoids. I mean, you could also use other waveforms. You got a bunch here. Anyway, it doesn't really matter so much right now. It's just a proof of concept. So again, presentation. Actually, yeah, that's fine. We could display the notes coming in, but yeah, no, we don't need that. No, we're just gonna go into presentation mode. Put it here. Add some comment. Instrument. So here, you don't want to have anything selected here, okay? You want to click in the empty area of the patch, then you have the instrument inspector, and then you can, oops, say to open in presentation. And that's it. We call it, we go back to our things here. We call it row M2 sign, or just sign synth, and everything together. Bye.